Hi guys, welcome back to Chalchitra Talks. मेरा नाम ध्रुव है. So the show that I want to talk about in this week's recommendation is one that I really did not have a lot of expectations when I was going into the show, but I came out of the show thoroughly impressed. The name of the show is The Terror. It's available on Amazon Prime. The show is actually an anthology of sorts, so every season in itself will have an individual story. The one that we are discussing right now is season 1. The show came out on AMC network, which is known for a lot of other shows such as Better Call Saul, The Walking Dead, etc. It follows the journey of these two ships, the most technologically advanced ships actually of that time, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror. And these two ships have been sent out, and there is about 129 men on deck when these ships set out. So ultimately what happens with both of these ships is that they get lost and they get stuck in the ice, and it's a true story to this extent, and very recently the remains of these ships were also discovered. Now the historical context of the show makes it a very interesting watch in itself, but that's not the only thing which actually sets it apart. There are a lot of creative liberties that the team has taken, but all of it just makes the show that much more interesting. If you have to classify the series in a genre, you can classify it as a survival horror, and honestly one of the best survival horror series that I have seen. At the very onset of the show, we get introduced by the primary characters of the show, played by Jared Harris. There is Ciaran Hinds, there is Tobias Menzies. So all of these people are part of the military or part of the navy who are governing the entire expedition. What makes the show truly stand out is the landscape in itself in which the show is set up in. It's the Arctic. It's brutal, it's completely cold, it's uninhabited, there is no one around, and it's unforgivable on top of everything. It has a very inherent sense of horror to it. From the caption of the show itself, you would understand the terror, so there has to be some horror element to it, but the way they have played with that entire element of horror is very interesting. Whereas shows in the same genre such as The Walking Dead, they very easily make people against people at the very onset of the show, like people are trying to kill each other. That is the basic premise of most of the survival horror that we have seen so far. One character in specific that I can think of is Dr. Henry Gutser, who is a medical officer and whose character is constantly driven by this mad scientist who is trying to figure out what's going on, and he's the one to first understand how these canned food that these people are carrying on the ship has lead poisoning. The entire shooting was done in a studio in Budapest. The CGI work is top notch in this series, and you truly feel that you are present in that moment with that character and in that brutal environment. So amazing work done on a technical level. Even the sound work is done amazingly well, and it's never in your face, and they have never fallen for those horror tropes that or psychological thriller tropes that the series or movies tend to fall for. It's kept absolutely minimal. Ultimately, I would say the thing that resonated the most with me was the encapsulation of human nature that the show was able to bring to the table. The way they have shown how a person, when taken out of all of the materialistic surroundings and the society and the civilization that he's so constantly surrounded with, and he is dropped in the middle of practically nothing, to what lengths can that human go for his survival. I would suggest all of you to go ahead and give this series a shot, and I understand that the series may not sit right with every one of you out there, but I assure you that the payoff will be well worth it if you do end up sticking through the entirety of it. This is it from me for this week's recommendation. I will be back next week with more recommendations like this. Till then, take care and be safe. Bye.